now we're going.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Disclosure Network New York. Our website is dnny.info. I'm Nick Curto. I am the director of the group, and we are now celebrating in November our 20th year of providing 2 meetings per month for our group here in Manhattan. And it's been an incredible journey. I just want to thank everybody from the very beginning, the first meeting on with now the Zoom meetings, for sticking with us and sharing your thoughts and your research. It's been an amazing journey of learning and discovery. And I just want to say right now, I am grateful to every single person who's had any part of this amazing group. Really, I'm very, very proud of it. Always have been. Now, for the topic today, we're going to talk about what issue or issues are on our minds right now and concerning us. But before we do that, I just want to go around, and if everybody would just say their first name and where they're from. I'll start. Nick, and I'm from Yorkville here in Manhattan.
This is Jim from Brooklyn.
Rena from East Harlem.
Okay.
Al from West Brighton.
Tom from Forest Hills, Queens.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. And here we go. I'll lead off, and then I'll say what I'm on my mind, and let's have a little discussion about that, whatever you're thinking, and then we'll go to the next person and go on from there. I believe we're going to have a few people joining us along the way, and of course that's the nature of our Zoom meetings. My concern right now is, and I wrote this up in a paragraph, and I will be sending it out when I can send it out, when my laptop or my new laptop is available, whichever comes first. But my concern is that I've never felt more concern about what is happening to our planet, to our country, and to our neighborhoods than right now. The only other times I felt this strongly were when I was in Boston as an art student at the Massachusetts College of Art, and the Kennedy assassination, which took the wind out of every single person. It was a dark, dark time, and I'll never forget that. The next thing, which would be the big one, would be the World Trade Center disaster. At that point, of course, I was here in Manhattan. I remember seeing people covered in ash coming through the lobby of my building because they had been in that area, and they all looked incredibly traumatized. I remember it was one of the worst days we could have ever imagined. It was a total nightmare, and we still don't have the answers to exactly who was behind that 20 years later, and that's, of course, a huge factor. So with that, I would say right now is the next big time. It has to do with the elections of which party is going to take over, and there's very serious consequences with each one, which, of course, would almost be another meeting. I feel as though this is coming to a head on many levels, and a lot is going to be taking place after the election, and you can put a very good or very bad label on that. I guess time will tell. Does anybody else here want to talk about what's going on now and at the moment, like what you feel as though is going on?
Marina here. I think climate change is really becoming an issue for the country. You know, the fires out west, burning up millions and millions of acres, and then we have 5 hurricanes now coming, and tornadoes that are. They recorded a tornado a year ago, I think it was, that was 2.5 miles wide and had 200-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow. I would say certainly that. Now, there's a lot to what you just said. We can get into that backstory because there really is a lot to that. that whole dynamic. But let's go to the next person. What somebody else chime in about something of concern.
Yeah, okay, I have something. And
Who is this?
it's Hal.
Right, I'm just saying, say your name at the beginning, okay?
Sure. The use of electioneering from everything from mainstream media such as Fox, who's talking about our beloved Newt Gingrich, to alternative media, to even organizations such as ours, that people are using the news not for news but as personal electioneering. And I think that's really bad.
Okay, that certainly is a big concern. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
Just that it isn't fair to anyone who's trying to actually learn anything, that people are too busy putting out news, as again, both mainstream down the line, that really isn't so much news, it's more just electioneering. And it's one step above, the phrase fake news.
Oh, okay. All right, got that. Well, thank you for that. Okay, how about someone else? Just give us the topic you're concerned about.
Okay, this is Tom Garber. What I wonder if anyone knows anything about this question, and this is probably one of the only places where people ever discuss this question. And, okay, the question is, we have, in this group especially, have had many guest speakers and many regular members of the group who have told us in no uncertain terms that in reality, what goes on with the candidates and the election and the announcements on TV and everything else is all kind of like a play and like a stage. And what's really happening behind the scenes is that there are people in, for lack of a better word, the shadow government, the black ops projects, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, who are actually the ones who control who gets elected, and that nobody ever gets elected unless they wanted them to get elected. And it seems to me that we have all been sort of like sweeping this under the rug and forgetting about it, So that's what I wonder, if anyone has any information to share. Do these shadow government people and black ops people and powers that be people want Trump to be elected for another term, or do they want Biden? Are they also, behind all the stuff we hear about, Russia invading our election and manipulating it, and China and all the rest of it? What's the scoop on what's going on with these people behind the scenes who are supposed to be really pulling the strings?
Well, that's an excellent point. And Joe and I have been in the last few days in communication on the internet, really going through this step by step. I hope that Joe will be joining us. I believe he said he was going to today, but I can just say that Joe does have some answers and some areas that he really outlined to me. I don't want to paraphrase that, because if he's here, you're going to get it, pardon the expression, from the horse's mouth. But I hope that Joe will come in. If he, for some reason, can't join us, then I will, Tom, paraphrase what Joe has said to me on emails.
Yeah.
Okay, because he really does have some comments. Okay, go ahead.
Years ago, before Bush was president, I knew this guy who worked for the military, and he worked on special ops projects and stuff like that. And before Bush was even elected, he said, he said to me, "How do you like Bush, your new president?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Oh, it's already arranged. He's going to be the new president." And I said, "No, I think Al Gore's going to be the new president." And he said, "No, you watch. You'll see."
And of course, that proved to be the case.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think they elect who they're going to elect, no matter what the people think, and there's not much we can do about it.
So you're saying that the free elections in our democracy are certainly not free?
I almost think they're there to keep the population from panicking and creating a real revolution.
I'm going to say briefly, Irina, that I agree with you totally on what you just said. And Joe has not only agreed with that, but also went into some real detail about that. So I hope we can get into that a little later on, because that's so pivotal. So pivotal. Okay, so we're going to go from that to someone else, please.
I'd love to have everybody's opinion on Trump nominating a new Supreme Court person before the election.
Okay, that's a good one, Jim, and very timely. Does anybody want to take that on right now? Well, I'll start then. Of course, there's a huge power play here, gigantic power play, and this is a big deal. Whoever is going to take that spot has been vacant, and Ginsburg, I believe, in a quote said that she would hope that this is decided after the new president has been picked. I believe that's a quote from her before she passed on. Is that right? Did anybody else read that?
Yes. She said that.
Now, that's interesting in itself that she said that. Obviously, in the position of the president, he wants to get the person that's going to be agreeing with him into that position of such huge magnetism and power. So I think that anybody who was the president would feel the same way, that they want to get their person, whether a man or a woman, into that major office, because that's going to dictate a lot of the laws in the future, near future and far future. So that's of course what's going on there. And of course, Biden would want someone very, very different from what Trump would want. So again, huge power play going on here. Anybody else want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I know that he said last night in a rally that he was going to nominate a woman. So I think whoever it is has already been pretty much predetermined that's going to go in.
Well,
go ahead. Look who he nominated for his vice presidential candidate. What do you think about her? I just want to go there for a second. Jim, what do you think about Harris?
Nick, you've got two different things going.
Yeah, you got two different things going.
All right. My only point was, I think he said that to pick up votes. I'm surprised he didn't say.
I think my opinion is, I think that he's being, when it comes to something like the Supreme Court, I think there are people that are actually telling Trump who should and shouldn't be selected. In my opinion.
Okay.
Well, they also had on, I think it was Face the Nation this morning, one of those news shows, his 5 choices who have been made already. And each one, is more conservative than the one before. So I think this was, as you said, Jim, I think this was decided a long time ago.
Yeah. Because he published that list, right? Like, here's the list. This is the second time he's done that, of potential justices. So someone gave him that list and he put it out there.
Who was the Supreme Court justice that died a few years ago? I can't think.
Scalia.
Yeah, Antonin Scalia.
Scalia. And isn't it interesting that Scalia, representing the exact opposite opinions of the what's her name that just passed on, and yet they were very, very close friends. Mm-hmm. They went to the opera together. They respected each other's opinion.
Yeah.
And it was just so interesting that there was that dynamic for many, many years, that they were very close, even though they were at opposite ends of a lot of issues. Other opinions?
I don't think that's such an unusual thing. There's tons of people who disagree with each other politically, morally, well, not so much morally, but they're they're good friends. It's not an unusual happening.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. In a way, it's very, I think, healthy, because you're not surrounding yourself with people that always totally believe in everything you do, but you're also putting the opposite around you also. I think that's a very healthy environment. And when I read that, I was like very happy that was part of the dynamic of those two major people. She did so much, opening up so many doors for women, and she is certainly admired by both men and women for all that she did to adjust the playing field and to have women be more on an equal plane. And so she really contributed quite a lot. Anybody else want to, before we go to another topic? Okay, how about another topic, guys? Someone who hasn't said anything yet. Are we done?
I don't think we have anyone who hasn't said anything.
They didn't come in yet? Hal, have you seen anybody?
Nope, nobody else is here.
Okay, you're watching that, right?
I'm not even watching the computer screen, just that.
No, but I mean, when someone's waiting to get in.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it as well.
All right. Just so someone doesn't have to wait in there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We got it, Nick.
Okay, so one of the things, we're going to go back to Rena for a second, because when I was talking to Joe, and Joe is incredibly connected and really does his homework. I'm very impressed with Joe and very delighted that he's joined our group, along with Frank. Frank's another one who's come in recently and is incredibly connected and highly researched. And those two guys are amazing. One thing that Rena said, she was talking about weather. Now, when I was very young, more than 10 years ago, there was a lot of information about the fact that there were major studies and major victories with controlling the weather. And the spin on that was that we can bring deserts in bloom because we can make it rain in the deserts by seeding the clouds. We can prevent hurricanes by changing the path of the hurricanes with our latest technology. And this was like really good news. And this was like, how many years ago was that, right? 50? Maybe? Something like that? And my point is, that was a big deal then. The scientists said, we have got this. We're working on it now. This is going to really help humanity worldwide. It's going to help feed people. It's going to give water to the places that need the water. And this was really good news. Now, at least 50 years later, here we are, and we're dealing with tragic weather conditions. And here's my point.
Have you ever heard of HARP?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever heard of HARP?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going with this. Just bear with me a moment. We have HARP. We have huge amounts of energy and money by the trillions put into these weather, what shall I call them, weapons or instruments of weather manipulation. Mm-hmm. So my point is, why the heck are we having such problems now when they were saying many years ago, let me finish, that they could actually steer all these away. They could drown the fires with artificial clouds with water. And so what happened to that? Or the other part of that is, are they being used as weapons? Now I'm open now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it backfired on them to a certain degree. But also, we are the Arctic Circle is melting, and it's putting out methane gas into the atmosphere. NASA takes pictures of the methane gas in the atmosphere all around the planet, and in just the last 10 years, it's doubled, tripled, and quadrupled because of the methane that's being released into the atmosphere because of the Arctic Circle's melting. So it's a combination of factors. I think HAARP was used. They tried to use it to do good things, but I think it backfired on them. They tried to push the stratosphere out farther so that they could manipulate the clouds and stuff like that. But I've seen pictures of them doing that where it didn't look good.
So you're saying that HAARP is really in play right now, but they're really up against this other condition, and that is really throwing it off. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. You know, I think HAARP plays into it, but I think the methane gas problem plays into it a lot in global warming. And when the globe warms up, the atmosphere pushes down the warm air, and that's what's happening in California and Oregon. It's pushing down all this warm air. Well,
okay. All right. Everybody else want to chime in on that? Someone else would want to take that and go further with it. Then I'm going to contribute the fact that there's a website. It's been up for many years, and it's called stopthecrime.net. Has anybody seen that website?
No, not me.
Okay, I really implore you to take a good look at it. It's quite extensive. It's called stopthecrime.net, all lowercase. And the woman, and I cannot think of her name, I've actually contacted her because I was so impressed with what she was saying and with the speeches she's been doing around California. And I asked her if she would do a Skype interview with me for our group. And she said, and this was about 6 months ago, Nick, I can't do it now, but in the future, the answer is yes. So I'm looking forward somewhere in the late fall, perhaps, getting her to talk to the group. And she's an amazing woman. She is very dynamic, highly researched, and she is in California. And one of the things on the website was it looks like blue lightning from planes high up in the sky, and it looks like it's pulse bombs, like light pulse bombs. And they've been photographed just before the fires have started. And this is a huge concern if this is true, because what that would mean is that these fires are being deliberately started, perhaps some from the weather, maybe, but not all. And then the question is, who would have the money and the motivation to burn these thousands of acres and drive people out of their homes for good? As the picture showed you, it's like cinders. There's nothing left. Their cars are cinders. Their homes are no more. Yeah. And it goes for hundreds of miles. And where are these people going to go and live is another question. So anyhow, don't miss that website. I think it's a very important website, and it will get more attention as time goes on.
Actually, Nick, it's Hal again. I have a question in general. There's all these pictures and people and such who are always there just before something happens. And they've always got their camera to photograph this just before something happens. How do they know where to be and exactly when to take these pictures?
I don't think that they know where. I just think that they have cameras and they live there. So when something is going on like that and they see it, they're quick as a bunny to try to to capture what's going on. They're probably photographing just a tiny fraction of what's going on, but they have documented that this is going on, and it makes no sense in any other. It's not lightning, for sure. So I just think that they happen to be at the right place at the right time. Just like when the World Trade Center disaster happened, there were many people with cell phones and cameras that happened to be there and were snapping and video too, trying to document what they were seeing. But I think that's the right answer for that.
Okay, thanks.
Other people. Okay, let's see now. Who was after Rena? Because I think we addressed a little bit more about what Rena was talking about. Who followed Rena?
I did.
And again, what was your major concern?
It was just a comment on people using media all over the place,
okay.
Personal electioneering. So there's nothing really to discuss. It was just
okay. Well, I think there is a lot to discuss in the sense that the mainstream media, when I was growing up, I mean, I really trusted that's what was going on. And I just really wasn't questioning at the time that it was not orchestrated news, that it simply was what's breaking. And I don't believe that for a second anymore. I don't. The news right now is almost laughable. I'm talking about the mainstream corporate media news. It's been shown on the many times that one story that's being pushed, exact wording is being pushed not only nationally, but all the local stations doing word for word of what they're saying. And that's a concern, which means they're not doing any of their own research at all. They're just simply copycatting. And I think there's a lot of concern about what the mainstream media is not only saying, but what they're eliminating, what they're not addressing, which are some of the more important issues. When they cover a Lady Gaga the concert, or talk about what Beyonce is wearing to an affair, and not talking about what China's doing, something's wrong. Okay, that's my opinion, but I'll stick with that. Go ahead.
But just to add to that, I mean, you can go back to the 1950s, and the CIA with like Project Mockingbird. They've been involved with every major newspaper almost since the beginning. So this is really nothing new. I mean, obviously it gets ramped up to the extreme. But even back then, even like what, Walter Cronkite would say was given to him. Despite, oh my God, I wish we could go back to the days when we had him, and all he did was he just read the news. And sure, so today all we have are these sort of opinion shows that pretend to be news. But back then we had news shows, we had news anchors reading what they were told to read. And even back then it was fake news. A lot of it was fake news. We were being fed lies.
Well, Jim, I would absolutely agree with what you just said. And that is, the people the newscasters are reading teleprompters. And do they have any major say in what they're reading? I don't think so. I would say absolutely not. So who is feeding what the teleprompters are saying? And that would be a very structured and very controlled group that is deciding what the news is and what should be eliminated. And that, of course, will carve the opinions of a lot of people who are not questioning like we are, like what we're doing now. So I think that some of the top news people are some of the best actors in the business, because they are making you absolutely believe that they believe it and that is absolutely true. And I don't think that in almost all those cases, that's not the reality, just like what you're saying. And that is really sad. And I think more people are waking up to the corporate mainstream news for what it really is. And luckily, we are more informed with the some of the alternate the websites that are people who really are concerned and are digging deep into the real news and then putting it out there. And our website, not a website, but our dnny news blast has been highlighting some of those people who are digging deep and giving you what's really going on. And as you know, that's marked differences than what the mainstream corporate news is putting out daily. And shame, but that is the truth. Is there any alternate news on the internet that people especially like? I can name a couple, but anybody out there, anybody thinks looking at alternate news and saying these are really good people giving us the real deal? No?
I guess not. I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, I don't know of any.
I would say that Tucker on Fox, I bumped into him quite by accident on the internet, and I thought, I haven't heard him do a news program, so I listened, and I was absolutely shocked in a good way that Tucker was really laying it out as it really was going on, what really was going on, and wasn't following the mainstream corporate news. And I thought, this is incredible. And I've been following, Tucker is one of the people I've been following. And if you haven't seen his newscasts, you can see them on the internet or Fox News. Take a look at Tucker and what he's reporting. Quite interesting.
Yeah,
also, there's another person who, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying, he is a comedian, but he's a comedian on the same level that George Carlin is a comedian, was a comedian, one of the great comedians, because he was telling the public what nobody else would dare say. George Carlin was telling the people the truth. And and he would say something and they would scream laughing, and then there would be a hush because you could tell that the entire auditorium was going, he's right. Oh my God, George Carlin is right. And that's why I've been sending some of the George Carlin comedy spots to you guys every so often, because Carlin is still cutting edge for one of the things he was identifying as totally phony, as what you should be really knowing, and what they were telling you was totally lies. Lee Camp, Lee, second name is Camp. You can see him on the internet, and he has a style all his own. He looks a bit like a hippie, a little bit, long hair, and he sometimes uses four-letter words because he's on the internet, he can do that. But he really goes after all the lies and the phoniness. And really, I was so impressed, and I've contacted him also and said, would it be possible sometime to do an interview with him for our group? And I'm hoping that in the future he will say yes. He didn't say no, but he said right now that he was crazy busy, but that thank you for the interest and perhaps later on. But if you haven't seen him, Lee Camp, and he'll turn up. He does some of the stuff he does live stream with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend is also incredibly informed, and they're a great couple. Or he does a newscast with just himself. Sometimes he has a sidekick that will do a sidebar of another news topic. But both of these people I give really high marks to, and take a look at what they're saying and see if you agree with that. And if you do, or you have other opinions, contact these people. They would love to hear from you. Okay, all right, so we're going to go from there. Hal, is that all right?
Sort of, yeah.
Is there anything more you want to add to that before we continue?
No, I would continue.
Okay. Who followed Hal?
I think it might have been me talking about the shadow government as it plays into the election.
Right. Okay. And Joe's not here yet, right?
No, he's not.
Okay. I'm going to, when I get my computer back, I'll be able to send you some of the amazing comments and research that Joe has been sending me. I asked him before if it's okay after he sent it to me if I could send it to everybody, and he said, Nick, of course. So I have his permission to do that. And he was digging very, very much into all of the control. And he said it's so permeated on every single level. And he said the only force that has not stopped but limited that has been the Trump administration. He said the Trump administration has done behind the scenes incredible work, and that's why he is so orchestratedly hated. You go to the mainstream TV and look at the Tonight program, Jimmy, all the Tonight programs at 11:30, ABC, CBS, NBC, and you're going to see more hate and more terrible stories about President Trump that they've even gone so far as to take what he's saying and edit it so it comes out a whole different way, which I think is totally fraudulent because it looks like he's really saying what they're editing, making him say, and that is unbelievably awful, and that's going on. And they're using that night after night. I can't believe that is their main subject without question. And they always, every night of the week it's going on, every single night. And they're just the tip of the iceberg. And Joe and I and a lot of people believe that this is very orchestrated because they can't let a second term be done by Trump. They got to get him out of office because he is literally helping to destroy the dark forces. Call it the Illuminati, call it the deep state. There's a lot of names for this, and the people involved. We all know their names. We all know who they are. They can't be hiding anymore. They were, because of the way things are now. They can't be hiding, although they're still trying. And so that is, and Joe and a lot of other people are documenting how this is going on, what he's doing, and who he's working for. It's quite a very different take on what the mainstream corporate media is spinning about President Trump. Now he certainly has his faults, no question about that. But the bottom line is nobody is doing the job of helping to clean up things more than the Trump administration. And Joe has a lot of detailed facts about that. Does anybody else want to comment or make a counter comment? Okay, then let's go to the next person. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. If among the things that Joe's research indicates comes out to the general public as skewing Trump, what Trump is really doing, does anybody say that what he said about drinking bleach or Lysol or something like that, to clean out the virus out of your body, does anybody claim that that he was really just joking about that, or he didn't really say that, or they're chopping out words in between to make it seem like he's saying that? Does anybody make that claim?
I believe that Joe has some specific instances, Tom, and I would also direct that question to him because he's really on this. he's got some real deep research on this, and I would ask him that question.
No, because go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He's on tape saying those things. Yeah, he actually said that.
Well, yeah.
He didn't really say that, though. So what did he actually say? He never actually said, go drink bleach. He never said those words like that.
He said inject it. He does. He says inject bleach.
He said, so Donald Trump said inject bleach into yourself.
Yeah, and then it'll clear it out. I watched him. I watched him on TV say it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
wow, I'll have to go back. I don't recall him actually saying it that way.
It seemed.
I know he had said stuff about like putting blue lights, like because they were talking about the UV lights that do kill the virus.
Yes.
Talking about putting that in your body.
Yeah, you can't do that either. That's really dangerous.
Actually, you can, because there are actually ventilators that have blue lights on them.
That's real. That is true. I know
that's
that
a
is
real
true.
thing, and I believe that's what he was actually referring to. Was that? So that is a real thing. I mean, to this day, they've been using like blue lights to kill the viruses on the subway trains. Mm-hmm. You can buy a blue light device that will kill germs off of your cell phone.
Well, that's different than injecting bleach, though. I mean, he did actually say that.
Yeah, it seems to me.
Well, let's move on with that.
I'd love to hear. You know what, Rena, can you find the YouTube of that and post it?
Yeah,
find
the YouTube. Rena, find the YouTube and please send it to us, okay? I would personally also like to see that exactly like you're saying. Will you do that?
I'll see if it's on YouTube. I'm sure it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
If it exists, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I'd love to see it.
Also, talking about ventilators and that whole escapade that went crazy a few months ago, if you recall all that was going on. Mm-hmm. Did you know that there's a lot of people that died because they didn't need to be on those machines in the first place, but the hospitals put them on those machines? And there's a lot of even some nurses have come on and said, I couldn't believe that they would do something like that because that patient didn't need that at all. And they were doing that. And there's one nurse who came on and documented, and she said, I'm going to tell you why some of these hospitals are doing that. Mm-hmm. And she said, did you know that for every patient that is put on a ventilator, they are given a $35,000 I won't say award, but whatever you want to call it, for each person that is put on a ventilator. And the nurse said a lot of these people never needed that in the first place, and they've died on the ventilators because they really didn't need them, and they were put on there for so long. How interesting is that? Anyhow, that's a good point, and that's documented.
Actually, Nick, I've got a quick question about that. I'm not, I read the same articles, and I'm certainly not doubting it. But did they ever say who was paying the money?
Yes, they did. That is in the article, and there was another part of that too. I'm trying to think a person fell off a horse. Okay, another person was in a motorcycle accident, and guess what they were listed as? They died of the virus. They didn't die of the virus. They didn't. But if the hospitals will put their names on the list of people who died of the virus, the hospitals are also given a substantial monetary award. And do you think that hospitals are in need of money? The answer is yes. And do you think there might be motivation to do these dirty deeds because every time they do it, they're really putting a lot more money into the treasury of the hospitals? The answer is yes. And there's a lot of people who've come forth from the hospitals and said, well, yeah, actually, that is true. Just wanting to put that on the table. That's a big factor. A lot of people, including 400 doctors from, I believe, London, were saying that the figures for how many people have actually died of the virus is hugely falsified. It's not nearly that many, and that there are more people that die every year of just the regular flu than die of this virus. And they're actually doing demonstrations, and these are professional doctors saying we want to straighten out the record. And that's on the internet, and there's photographs of the 400 doctors. They're standing up. They said, we've got to stand up for what's true. Interesting. So, Hal, there you have it. Look some of that up, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, no, I just was wondering about, I wasn't doubting, and I was just wondering what the sourcing was, that's all.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question, and you always have to do that. As you're saying, it's important to check out the source of this information to see if it's credible. Absolutely. Always do that. You're totally right with that. Absolutely. I do the same thing. Now, who followed Tom?
Jim, actually.
Jim.
Yeah, we were talking about that already. We were talking about the Supreme Court.
Right. So we really went into that. If anybody else, including you, Jim, have any more comments about that part of it?
Well, actually, can I just make a comment about what you were just saying previously? One thing that I'm starting to wonder about is, like we hear every single year, like tens of thousands of people die from the flu.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. I'm starting to doubt if that's even true because, I don't know. Like, everybody here probably knows somebody that, got COVID or knows somebody who knows somebody that may have died of COVID. And there have been less than just about 200,000 deaths, right? No. I don't know. I've never met anybody that, died of the flu, or I don't know anybody that knows anybody who's died of the flu.
I know of one person, an older man. He was one of the leaders of the Urantia movement. He lives in New Jersey. A very beloved man, and he died in the hospital. And they said that the COVID was one of the factors there.
COVID was one of the factors.
One, he was also there were other factors also, and lots of times there are many other factors, and one of them is old age that will chime in to dying of COVID. It's not just COVID; it's other factors too.
Right.
So I can say that I knew
regular flu.
Right.
Regular flu. But
outside of him,
yep.
Outside of him, nobody except for one.
So, I wonder, if these yearly flu shots are this is a thing to get people to get these flu shots every year.
If my opinion, you bet. And follow the money. Follow the money.
Every year, we should all know, a lot of people that, my neighbor got COVID, and, you know what, someone who works in my building got COVID. I can name a whole bunch of people, right? But I can't say, you know what, my neighbor got the flu, this person got the flu. I can't name anybody.
Nor can I.
We should be able to name people every single year. If there's many people
that are
literally dying from the flu. But
that is a very good point.
I think it's bullshit. And it's really just getting people to get shot up with these flu vaccines every year.
Yep. I think you're right on the money on that, Jim. Right on the money on that. And I wish more people would wake up.
Well, I think that this might come to light, and people might be able to realize, wait, why everybody who's on this call should know at least 20 people that have gotten the flu and almost died.
Does anybody know anybody?
Okay.
I don't know anybody who's had the flu.
No. Okay, maybe not almost died, but when I worked at the Bank of New York, our team, the trust accounting system, we all worked in cubicles pretty close to each other, and almost every year the flu would go around, and one by one, each one of us, would get the flu and be out sick, on sick leave for like 3 weeks or something, and then finally come back, and look, like they lost a lot of weight and with a pale complexion and everything. Yeah, I can name you the names of all those people if you want.
Well, any of them know anybody who died from it?
No, I don't. But I guess I actually don't know about concerning pneumonia. Is pneumonia actually a specific ailment caused by a specific microorganism, or is pneumonia a condition that you can get, if you have the flu and it gets really bad?
Yeah, I think it's a condition.
It's a condition.
You get the flu and it turns into pneumonia.
Oh, okay. Because lest anybody forget, both Jim Henson from the Muppets, who was the original voice of Kermit the Frog and sang "It's Not Easy Being Green" and all that, both him and Joe Raposo, the composer of all those songs, who studied with Nadia Boulanger in Paris, the same people that, the same teacher that Leonard Bernstein and Aaron Copland studied with. Both of those men, Jim Henson and Joe Raposo, died of pneumonia on the same night. And so they probably, in that case, they probably got that way because they had the flu.
I almost died of pneumonia once. I got it really bad, and I had this dream that a black magician threw a black feather on my chest, and it turned into a black animal that I had to wrestle with, and I finally threw it to the floor. And I didn't have insurance at that time, so I was slowly dying. And
Is that a symptom of pneumonia?
Yeah, pneumonia. I had double pneumonia.
Yeah.
The next day, my dad came and got me and said, "Come on, I'm taking you to the doctor." And I got antibiotics, and I got well.
I had
the doctor said if I would have gone 2 more days, I would have died.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I had. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
According to Google, pneumonia is a bacterial infection. Starts by a bacteria.
Oh, it is. Okay.
That's what the doctor told me.
Yeah, I had pneumonia when I was about 2 years old, and I don't actually remember it that well, except that my mother told me, over and over again years later, I used to have a temperature about 104 or 105, and there was nothing that they could give me to swallow that was strong enough to fight it off. So they used to give me shots in the ribs. And then eventually I got good enough that I could walk around and I didn't have to stay in bed. But there was some kind of stuff called terramycin that I had to take, 4 times a day. It was awful tasting, tablets. And there was some kind of special cherry-flavored version of it for young children that I was getting. And my mother kept it in the bathroom down on the, about 10 feet away from when you first come in the house, so that I could have just walk 10 feet and get it if I needed another injection, another dose as soon as I came in the house. And I don't know how long it took for me to get well, but I think probably several months.
It took me a year. It took me a year to get back my strength.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I'm so glad you guys surmounted those huge challenges. My goodness! Oh wow! That's amazing. That really is. I want to just do a quick comment. I want to do a program in the future on what Rena very quickly went into, which was dreams. Dreams. And I'll tell you the reason I'm motivated to say that is because I guess lately, in the last months, my dreams have been, how shall I say this, so detailed that it's almost frightening in my dream, and I only remember them when I wake up very briefly, and then they're gone, which I think is pretty common. But when I do remember, these dreams are very detailed of particular people and particular events, and some of them have themes and some of them don't. But they are, when I'm dreaming them, extremely real. I feel as though I'm being transported into a very different world. And none of this relates to me in any way. in any way whatsoever. And I'm seeing people in extreme detail doing extreme events sometimes. And I'm part of that scenario, and I'm working with what's going on in my dream. And sometimes when I wake up, for the first minute or so, I'm sometimes almost breaking in a sweat because of the situation I was in my dream. And again, it's not like a vague thing. It's extremely detailed. And I'm thinking, where would I even get that information? How in the world would I know what something looks like in a particular place, and how it's so detailed? Anyhow, it's a bit of a concern right now, and I'd like to do a program talking about people's dreams, and if there's anything you remember about them, and if there's any comments you guys have. So I wanted to just put that out there.
Well, hey, Nick, are you journaling that stuff? Writing that stuff down as a log?
I'm going to try to get an audio recorder, an inexpensive one, and sometimes they're like $25, little tiny ones, but they do work. And then you put them into your computer, and then you can record and keep what's on these chips. It looks like a stick you'd put into a computer. They're that small, because they say that if you immediately wake up, say every detail you can think of, and that will trigger later on when you're trying to remember certain events that happen in your dream. So yeah, we got to do that. But it's just, I feel as though I'm in a very different place, and I'm looking at extremely detailed things. And how in the world does my mind do that? Or what's up? What's going on? Really, it's never been more than lately. Anyhow, that's a subject I want to get into.
Yeah,
I have one that's a doozy. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm dreaming. Right, I'm on a flying saucer, and my aunt is there, and there's a round console, and there's about 10 people around the console at different workstations, and we're arguing about anti-gravity, and she's saying, "No, you're wrong, and I said, "No, I'm right," and finally I said, if I'm wrong, why can't I do this? And I reached over to the console and pressed these buttons, and we were flying over a lake in Canada, and all of a sudden the flying saucer goes into the water and starts glugging, and then I wake up and I'm still seeing the UFO glugging down into the water. Well, the next day, I used to go to this UFO chat group, and there's these. You could lurk there if you wanted to. You didn't have to go into it. You could just see what everybody was talking about. So I did that, and there was these people that I suspected to be government agents. They were talking about how can we retrieve a UFO from a lake in Canada and get it back to America.
My God. Wow. Huh. That's remarkable. Wow.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Wow. Yeah. One time I know when I was dreaming, and this was a while back, but I do remember this, that it had come to a point in my dream that it was an extreme situation. It was kind of like do or die. And I said, you know what, this has got to be a dream. It's got to be. Although it was, at the time, it seemed like as much of a reality as what we're experiencing at this very moment. And I said, if this is a dream, then I've got to wake up now. I've got to. And I pinched in the dream. I pinched my arm hard. I said, I got to wake up if it's a dream. And I woke up and I was pinching myself.
Oh, wow.
And it felt like I went from one reality to another. It was that wild. That it felt like I had just been pole vaulted from the reality I was in to the reality that this is.
Well, you know,
Anyhow, that's a true story.
Okay.
Native Americans believe that dreams are a separate reality that we exist in.
Well, that's where I'm going with what my concerns are, and that's why I wanted to get a program just about this subject, because I think there's a lot to that. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys are interested. Probably one of the most famous dreams that anyone had in history, which everybody who studies music history knows about, is the composer Tartini. I think that a lot of people might remember when I say this that Tartini wrote a very famous piece called the Devil's Trill Sonata. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody. So the question is, what is a devil's trill? Well, Tartini said that he had a dream that the devil was standing on top of the mattress at the foot of his bed playing the violin and playing these figures, that nobody in history had ever played before on the violin. It had never occurred to anybody that it would be possible to play these figures, So as soon as he woke up, he wrote down as much as he could remember of it, but he said he couldn't really remember very much, Now, you might remember the world-famous Russian violinist David Oistrakh, and no one knew about him in America for a long time because, we still had the Soviet Union and the Iron Curtain and everything. And eventually he became known in America. And the first recording of his that came out, that absolutely wowed everybody, included his performance of the Devil's Trill Sonata. And I remember listening to that when I was about, 14 years old or something and saying, oh my God, I had no idea you could do that on the violin. And neither did anybody else, And he says he got this from this dream, and it was the devil playing the violin. So it's very, very interesting. I think that's the most famous dream of all time.
I love that. Tom, thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing. And there's been a lot of composers, and I'm sure you know this too, that have said in interviews when people were saying, you're such a genius. This composition is so exquisite. And major people have said, thank you so much, but I really can't take all the credit.
Yeah.
And the interviewers have said, and I'm saying interviewers, that there were a lot of these, what do you mean by that? And they said, I feel as though I was also working with someone or something else that was helping me along the way. I don't feel as though it was coming just from me.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
That's correct. And probably the most famous composer who said this was Brahms. And he said that he would go into a trance state, and in the trance state he would get from another source, he doesn't know what it is, these melodies, all the best melodies that everybody knows by Brahms, Brahms' Lullaby, the finale of his first symphony that used to be like the theme song for radio programs and TV programs all over the place.
Right.
He says he got those in a trance state. And he says the interesting thing is that he gets only the melodies, not the working out of them, not the orchestration, not, how they have to come up against other melodies in the middle of his symphonies. In other words, the part that he can figure out with his own head, he doesn't get. But the part that's beyond his own head, he gets from this trance state. And they said
love that.
They said he really hated to give interviews. He hardly ever gave any, but this is one of the few that he gave, and that's what he talked about.
And look what he said. Oh, that's stunning. Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, guys, we're almost at the end here. Anybody else want to do a final thought before we sign off?
Yeah, I think another topic that we should discuss sometime is why there aren't any UFO flaps anymore in New York.
Oh. That's a good one. Okay. Yeah. So noted. Any other thoughts, anybody?
Flap in New York since, I think, 2010.
Huh. All right. Well, yeah, that's of concern. Anybody else have any other final thoughts before we go? Well, in that case, I want to thank all of you for being on this program and for sharing your thoughts. Very, very interesting stuff. We're going to have our next one in a couple of weeks. You're going to get a notice about that, and we're going to have a guest speaker. And the guest speaker will be addressing the incredible information that he has on deep research about the tunnels that are connecting major parts of the world that no one has ever known about, and they've been existing for many, many years. And where they are and how they connect. And it's a lot of details about that. He told me a little bit about this, and I was stunned about this information. So they'll be doing a talk about that, followed by a Q&A. So that's going to be quite a major Zoom meeting, and that's coming up in a couple weeks. So again, guys, thank you all. This is Nick Curl for Disclosure Network New York. Thanking you so much for listening, and certainly we all hope that you connect the dots and find your truth. Okay, for now, be well and peace out. Okay. Goodbye for now.
Okay.
Take good care. Much love.
Okay.